going to start with the underrated, and I'm going to mix it up a little bit on the fly here. I'm going to start with Jeff's underrated fantasy running backs. Jeff, what are we looking at for you heading into the season?
I'm looking for players that aren't really being drafted as the necessary starters, or at least, they're not costing us that in draft. Somewhere where we can wait on running back, some guys where we already have a base, we're taking some shots. I like taking a shot on Zach Charbonnet. I know Nick and I are both fading Kenneth Walker a little bit there. Charbonnet won people leagues last year. That Arizona game in particular was massive for him. If you recall that game in week 14, it's the first round of the fantasy playoffs, 134 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, had 7 catches in that one there. Kind of illustrates his capability. If he ever got a shot at the job full time, what he is capable of doing. He's a pass catcher, a guy that they drafted with an early pick in the second round, the year after they drafted Kenneth Walker with a second round pick. So, they love him. It's just a question now. It's a different coaching staff, obviously, but Charbonnet might take over more of the reins, I think, this year.
Jeff, do you have more confidence in this Seattle offensive line this year? And I know we're going to get to that a little bit in the NFC West, but man, I still don't know how good the Seahawks or how bad they were last year, because it felt like the offensive line was basically the entire reason they were held back from going further last year.
Oh, I 100% agree, and I still think it's a problem. I do like they addressed it with Gray Zabel a little bit there. I think the interior was the part that was really awful, and I am fading the Seahawks as a whole. In fact, I've thrown the Seahawks under 8.5 out there already on prop points earlier this discussion season here, if you will, and I still believe in that. Don't really love the minus 140 price now. Shop around as always, but I do think the running lanes will be a little bit better there. And this is more of just I like Charbonnet's talent. I don't like the price for Kenneth Walker. So let me take the guy that's the second guy here and get him at a pretty cheap price.
I like it. Next up on your list, you're looking at Pittsburgh.
Yeah. So, Pittsburgh, I think Caleb Johnson's going 30 picks ahead of Jaylen Warren. And this is a true timeshare. Caleb Johnson's getting drafted as if he's the definite starter. And I think it's going to be the other way around. I think Warren will take the first snap for the Steelers this year. That's the way Mike Tomlin typically operates. You usually don't install that rookie right away. So again, give me the second guy. I think that's kind of the approach I am taking in a lot of these situations. Is if and especially in the case of Johnson, I think just because you have an established guy in Warren too. Warren won't be an every down back. There will never be that workhorse back with these two guys. I don't think that's the way Tomlin prefers to play it. But Warren's a very useful guy, especially in the more flex positions you have. Also throw out Jaden Blue real quick here as another one. I love the measurables. I like the speed. I think that Javonte Williams is a known commodity. I think we can fade Javonte Williams pretty easily. And you're getting Jaden Blue at like pick 150 in draft. So, we talk about lottery tickets, handcuffs, if you will. I don't know if the Dallas Cowboys are going to run the ball a ton, but if someone's going to be the guy that lottos for them, it's going to be Blue.
All right, I like it. Yeah, the Cowboys with one of those situations of, hey, there's some names I recognize and one name I don't really recognize all that much. I don't know how good or how bad all four of them are at this point in the different points of their career. So, Nick, let's move over to you. Your underrated fantasy running backs heading into the season.
Yeah, well, first of all, just an elite list from Jeff Erickson. I agree with all three of those, especially Zach Charbonnet. Guys, for me, it's Jordan Mason. And I liked Jordan Mason better a month ago when we were getting him after pick 100. I think the fantasy community in general is really starting to come around on him, but he's still a value to me, a guy who still does go after pick 100 in a lot of leagues. Kevin O'Connell has already told us that this is going to be more of a 1A, 1B than a clear number 1, clear number 2 situation in Minnesota this year. The Vikings made a point to go out and get Jordan Mason because I think they see the writing on the wall with Aaron Jones, who's going to turn 31 midway through this season. During his best days in Green Bay, Aaron Jones, despite his relatively slight build, was one of the better goal line backs in the NFL. You just think of him kind of slithering his way through. That was not the case at all last season. 24 carries in the red zone, converted just 3 of those into touchdowns. So I think there's a ton of red zone potential for Jordan Mason. I think there's an argument to be made that he's just straight up the better running back at this point in his career versus where Aaron Jones is in his career right now. Part of the evaluation here, of course, depends on, do you think this Minnesota offense takes a step back? Does J.J. McCarthy struggle a bit relative to what we saw from Sam Darnold? But I am not touching Aaron Jones at his current price. I think there's a chance, guys, that by week 6, week 7, we could see Jordan Mason really emerge as the guy in Minnesota.
I like it. Okay, we're switching over to the over. Nick, finish off your underrated list. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'll go real quickly through these other two guys. Isaiah Pacheco is on my list. He's still being drafted around a bunch of other running backs who are either in clear timeshares or guys who are competing for their job. You know, you think about someone like a Brian Robinson, you know, someone like Aaron Jones, Travis Etienne, Tony Pollard, you know, these guys who are, you know, they have a conceivable path to being the clear RB1. But even if they are, it's like, do we really feel that great about the offensive upside? I mean, Kansas City, of course, has immense upside. I mean, if this thing hits, you know, this could be a team that goes back to being one of the 3 to 5 highest scoring teams in the NFL. And what I really like about Isaiah Pacheco is there's no clear alternative, right? It's like if you're not in on Pacheco, who are you in on in this Kansas City Chiefs backfield? There's no Jaylen Warren. There's no Zach Charbonnet. There's not even a Tank Bigsby type to pivot to. So as long as Isaiah Pacheco is healthy, I think he's going to end up being a massive, massive value where he's going in drafts. And then Travis Etienne is my other underrated running back. I know he's in a battle right now with Bashal Tutin and Tank Bigsby, but I think to me, guys, he is still clearly the most versatile, most talented back on this team. I do think it's going to end up being somewhat of a timeshare, but you look at what Liam Cohen did year over year to that Tampa Bay running game. The Jags running game was one of the worst in the league last year. I think we see a big time boost for Etienne. It was a top 5 running back in fantasy just a couple years ago.
Yeah, Nick in on the Jags. That's a shocker right there.
Who would have thought?
Who would have thought? Jeff, you have a comment on Pacheco I have a feeling I'm going to agree with completely, and then we will switch over to overrated.
Yeah, real quick. Love Pacheco. I totally agree with Nick. RotoWire has a player futures page where you can scrape and you can see future running back touchdowns, passing yards, all the players' futures, all on one page. And I found that only Caesars has a Pacheco rushing touchdowns prop over 4.5 at -115. I would jump on that one there.
Yeah, I really like that as well. You sent that over this morning. I think that is something I will be tailing you on, my friend. All right, overrated. We'll start with Jeff's. Again, your overrated fantasy running backs heading into this league, into this year.
Yeah, and what we're looking for here is players at cost that we just don't feel like we're going to pay for. So James Conner, one of these years we're going to be right, and he's going to fade a little bit there. And we started to see that at the end of the year last year. We were wrong most of the year. I think a lot of people are like, oh, Trey Benson's going to take that job away. I just think that the historical fragility of Conner got through most of the year last year. It's a good back when healthy. He's also 30 years old. I just think this is the year that the age catches up to him there. I'm not paying that price. He's in the quote unquote running back dead zone we talk about in fantasy all the time. Not going to pay that price. Kyren Williams, great player when healthy, it seems like, but the efficiency has gone steadily down. He is a volume play. And you're counting on him getting all the goal line touches, getting all those snaps. The Rams 2 years in a row now have drafted running backs to kind of try to at least support him, if not supplant him. Blake Corum last year, this year going to getting the kid out of Auburn. I just think this is at some point in time that volume is going to drop off. You're paying a second round, early third round price on Kyren Williams. I'm just not there. And then I'm with Nick on Aaron Jones. He's laid out the case already there, so I won't belabor the point. I'm not drafting Aaron Jones.
Yeah, I am such a big fan of both Aaron Jones and James Conner, but I get it. Father Time, it catches up with everybody. Nick, let's go over to yours. Overrated fantasy football running backs heading into the season.
Yeah, so obviously if I'm all in on Jordan Mason, I have to be out on Aaron Jones. I've already spoken my piece on him. Agree with Jeff in that Kenneth Walker is just being way overdrafted right now. I don't think the risk, which includes injury, by the way, for Kenneth Walker, who's missed a ton of time early in his career, I don't think that really matches up with the reward where he's going right now. So certainly staying away from him. And then the other guy that I'll highlight here is another aging running back, Joe Mixon in Houston. Got off to a great start last season. Midway through the year, felt like he kind of hit a cliff. The entire Texans offense really fell off. Houston went out and got Nick Chubb for a reason. I think this is another situation where they kind of see the writing on the wall. They want to reduce that workload for Joe Mixon. So he's another guy. He falls in that running back dead zone. There's just not a ton of upside if you draft Joe Mixon. At best, it feels like you're just hoping for a break even